So welcome everybody to Poetry Near and Afar, brought to you by the Oceanside Library. We are delighted to have two wonderful poets with us here tonight. We are going to get started right away. And so without any further ado, Judy Wells.
Hi, everybody, and thank you to Oceanside for hosting me. And I'm the Afar poet, Judy Wells. I'm going to read sort of a set about identity, loosely about identity. And the first is from my book, Everything Irish, an older book. Everything Irish about me in a nutshell. My mother's church in San Francisco was called St. Bridget's. My church was called St. Catherine's. I was told I had the map of Ireland on my face. Said, Mither, I want me mush when I was a kid. My best friend in kindergarten was Kathleen Ahern. I went to parochial school, wore a navy blue uniform and beanie, had priests called Monsignor Burke, Father Cushnahan, and Father Coffey in our parish. My smart girl rival in Catholic school was Marlene Dunn. Paul and Philip Murphy, the twins, were the milk boys at school. Dara Flynn could run faster than me. I collected holy cards, hoarded silver dollars in my sock, was sexually repressed, committed minor sins, but still thought I was going straight to hell. Took the pledge when young, I think, I forget. I had an alcoholic uncle who was the family secret. I had very pale skin, blue eyes, and dark hair. My childhood enemy was Mary Lou Mahoney down the street. Her mother thought I was the ringleader against her daughter. I wore green on March 17th, said I was English, Irish, and Scottish when asked what I was. I went to Mass every Sunday, knelt down before the radio for rosary recitation. I sunburnt to a crisp. Had a spinster school teacher aunt called Agnes. I never thought of going to Ireland, but went to France 3 times. My mother was a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, feisty politico, go straight to the top type woman. Her son was favored over 3 daughters. I love potatoes and sweets and often feel I'm starving. That's everything Irish about me in a nutshell, except I'm always running late, love to chat, and I am a poet. My next poem will be from a Berkeley book. I'm taking you to Berkeley here. I Dream of Circus Characters, another older book. This one's called Freak. I was taking a walk above College Avenue in Berkeley, in an exclusive neighborhood where you're surrounded by the very large houses of the rich whom you rarely see. She was sitting at the foot of one of those secret stairways the locals know about, and I was about to descend. Obviously, she wasn't local, but homeless. I could see her back bent over paper, and she was writing, surrounded by plastic bags of stuff and a rolled foam pad. When I got closer, I could see I'd have to step over her bedroll and bread rolls scattered on the sidewalk. Something inside me said it was impolite to just pass by, so I said hi, glancing as I passed, glancing at her enormous breasts, mostly uncovered, her shaved head partially covered by a trucker's cap, her mounds of gear, and the forms she was filling out. What for? I wondered. Welfare? Food stamps? SSI? And when I said hi, she looked up at me and said, "Freak." I passed by quietly, and only later thought of retorts. Likewise, I'm sure. Thanks for the compliment, since this, of course, was Berkeley. But the epithet stuck in my craw like a high school zinger. I suddenly felt like hurling back at the girl, "These are my streets, you hopeless blob. I've walked here a million times and never seen you before, you goddamn freak." My kinder self thought, "You're so young. Are you mentally ill? Do you really want to spend your days on the streets, battered down by circumstance, dirt, hunger, alcohol, drugs? Can you find a shelter? Go home? Find a group?" Then I wanted to forget her, but as self-consciousness slid over my skin, I felt every passerby, every suburban graduate of Berkeley here for the football game, glanced at me and was judging me. When I got home, I headed straight for my floor-length mirror and examined myself. I saw a woman in straw hat, turquoise shorts, Hawaiian t-shirt embossed with golden turtle, fish, and dolphin, and on my feet, crazy patterned running shoes and black socks. Yes, I thought, completely normal, while a voice inside yelled, "Freak." I'm going to move into much later books. I'm going to read from Dear Phoebe, The Dickinson Sisters Go West. Phoebe Dickinson was my great grandmother. And I refer to Galway Kinnell in this poem. He was the poet laureate of Vermont for quite a few years. And he died in 2014. He was a prominent poet. After reading Galway Kinnell's Oatmeal and contemplating Emily Dickinson. Like Galway Kinnell, I eat a bowl of oatmeal every morning. Unlike his, mine is not glutinous, lumpy, or slimy. It is a sublime concoction of oatmeal, raisins, cranberries, almonds, walnuts, and fresh fruit, blueberries, apples, raspberries. I make it myself. Nor do I need an imaginary companion to eat with me. But today, in the spirit of Galway Kinnell, who breakfasted with Keats, I choose one, Emily Dickinson. "Yes, I will sample your oatmeal," she says. "My Irish maid, Maggie Maher, often made it for herself and the hired hands, though I much prefer my own cake. She daintily eats 2 spoonfuls of my elaborate mush. I'm Irish too," I say to Emily. Her eyes pierce my soul. "I could tell," said Emily, "though you do not resemble Maggie as much as the Irish washerwoman who lives down the street." "I'm also related to you, Emily," I say. She eyes me suspiciously. "I'm your 6th cousin twice removed." She snorts. "Please say that in plain English." "My great-grandmother is Phoebe Dickinson from Northfield, Massachusetts, just up the river from Amherst. She was born 4 or 5 years after you were." Oh, a descendant of our northernmost Puritan ancestors. Emily sighs. "I suppose they were farmers. Not our sort, really, those Dickinson farmers. We became lawyers and college builders." I'm getting a little hot under the collar of my blue synthetic robe as she sits coolly crisp in her white cotton house dress. I counter. Phoebe's first cousin, Elijah Dickinson, built a magnificent stone library in Northfield. He made his money in shoe manufacturing in Fitchburg, sent his shoes worldwide. Emily looks down at her dainty feet. I suppose we all need shoes. Tell me who you are, other than a hybrid Irish Dickinson. I'm from 21st century California, I say. Phoebe Dickinson wasn't a stay-at-home like you. She took the boat to California, was a cook on board, and met her husband, a seaman, on the voyage, or so the story goes. I'm a fourth-generation Californian, and I humbly state, a poet. Not a genius like you, Cousin Emily, whom I admire intensely. But you might be amazed to know women can now get masters of fine arts in poetry at universities all over the USA. I approve, said Emily. I had several masters, though I never did reveal their names. And we have machines at home that instantly send our letters around the world if we want. I approve, said Emily. The world never sent a letter back to me, and secretly I wanted one. And you can conduct a love affair solely by these machines, I said. I approve, said Emily. I confess I was erotically attracted to both men and women, but I never wanted the mess. A letter is much more erotically charged than a body, at least in my opinion. My mind is not a mess. And what form do you choose for your poetry? Emily asked. I had to admit I did not know, for it varied day to day, and all I could say was story. I want to tell a story. Oh, that's not very spiritual, she said. I took several large spoonfuls of my oatmeal and thought for a second. I don't want to hear a fly buzz when I die, I said. Do you? She did not reply. This second one from this book is dedicated to libraries, Oceanside Library, and all libraries. On returning Phoebe Dickinson's 100 Years Overdue library book, Friday, January 13th, 2017. Dear Phoebe, I just wanted to tell you, great-grandmother, that you became famous for 15 minutes today, 100 years after you died, though your name was misspelled Phoebe instead of Phebe, as it should be. Your great-grandson, Webb Johnson, found in your old trunk a library book you checked out a century ago in 1917 in San Francisco and decided to return it. You see, the San Francisco libraries had an amnesty on returning overdue library books without a fine. Yours would have been $3,650 at 10 cents a day. Oh, I know that's outrageous, Phoebe, but it's inflation. Dear Phoebe, you died before you could return your book. So my cousin Webb and I took it to the Park Branch Library in the Haight, Ashbury. We expected a solid handshake and perhaps a snapshot for our saintliness. But no, we were greeted by a barrage of ABC TV cameras and reporters from the San Francisco Chronicle to broadcast the extraordinary news that a 100 years overdue library book was being returned at last. the head of the San Francisco Public Libraries, handled the book like a rare relic. I wanted to check it out again as soon as Webb returned it. He had cooked up that plot. I had even applied and received a psychedelic library card from the Haight-Ashbury Library, but the library head said I'd have to wait. Was this precious jewel intended for the library museum? I guess. Its title, 40 Minutes Late and Other Stories. Okay. And finally, I'm going to read a few poems from my latest book, Night at the Musée d'Orsay. This is the title poem. Night at the Musée d'Orsay. If the curators knew I, a moth, was in the Van Gogh room at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, they'd be shocked. But what did they expect? I love light, and I'm particularly attracted to a painting of stars, globs of light reflected in a river. I've sat on top of these yellow blobs and survived somehow, though I can feel the heat of these stars right through the paint. Light bulbs are cold by comparison, though I'm not singed by Van Gogh. Somehow I'm transformed, and waves of ecstasy wander through my wings. I rest on Van Gogh's stars all night, and in the morning I flit to a cottage with a voluptuous garden and settle on a deep blue iris. The tourists think I'm part of the painting. I laugh. I'm just a moth with grand taste. And the second one is a persona poem. Marc Chagall speaks as Marc Chagall. I hope you can see this piece of art here.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. It's called La Promenade. Marc Chagall speaks, i.e. When I take a walk with my sweetie Bella, after we have talked, lounging on the lovely red spread she has brought, after we have sipped from our one cup of wine, sometimes I feel so high, so drunk with love for my Bella, my sweet little dove. I ply my magic. I hold a little dove in my right hand gently, cup my fingers around its wings, stand up, and with my left, hold hands with my Bella in her pretty purple dress. And guess what? She flies. Yes, my Bella flies in her purple high heel shoes and her almost transparent purple dress. Yes, it is then I say I'm inspired to paint as I walk with my belle, my kite, my muse, my saint. My, how her energy flies through my soul. But I have my hands full. In my right, my bird with her own fluttering soul. In my left, my belle with her own fluttering soul. And the moment comes when I toss my struggling dove into the air, and Bella drifts gently down. It is then I have to leave for town very quickly to retrieve my easel and my paints. I leave Bella to gather up the bread and the wine. Later, she will find me in my studio in ecstasy. I have drunk from her body. I have learned to fly from a dove and a woman. And there she stands, a red flowered tablecloth in her hands, and begins to grow wings. And my final poem is another one about flight. Oh, those Swiss. Flight from Prague to Zurich. Before we take off, Swiss flight attendant comes around with large basket of Swiss milk chocolate candy bars. Yes, take as many as you want, he encourages us all with a broad smile. He's the good mother you never had, the bad dentist, the fairy godmother with the magic wand to soothe your airplane fears. He comes around again before we land, this time with huge chocolate croissant. Oh, those Swiss know how to fly, even on a 1-hour junket from Prague to Zurich. Oh, those Swiss know how to fly. A chocolate high will bring you down safely. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. People want, if you want to unmute yourselves, give. Thank you, Judy. That was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
That was
Thank
fantastic.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful.
Magnificent. That was magnificent, Judy. I loved
Thank
it.
you for listening, everyone.
Just great, Judy. I love the selection.
Great.
Hey. All right. We'll keep moving
That was
on.
amazing.
Yeah, it was great. It was
I love
great.
how you read them too, Judy.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to move on now. Again, for those of you who might have come in a little bit later, just if you do not want to be in the open mic, please tell me in the chat. And without any further ado, we'll have our second reader, Ron Bremner.
Yeah, hi everybody. That was a really wonderful reading. Thank you, Judy. I'm going to do some old ones and some new ones. I'd like to start with two poems that received honorable mention in the Allen Ginsberg Awards. The first one is called Uncle Harold and Uncle Raymond. My Uncle Harold and Uncle Raymond lived together in a small flat in Jersey City. Two happy bachelors. Though Harold was married many years ago to an English girl he met overseas during World War II, but the marriage was short-lived because Aunt Sue said she was a bad girl. Uncle Raymond never married. It was said he never had the time, working all day on roofs in suburban towns far away, then driving the truck back to the city. Uncle Harold did not drive, not since his car struck and killed a woman, and though he lost his driver's license for a year, he never drove again. I do not know how he got back and forth to his job at the Yardley Soap Company. Uncle Raymond did drive, and each Sunday during football season, he drove off alone to see the Giants, whether in Yankee Stadium, in the Yale Bowl in Connecticut, or in the Jersey Meadowlands. So anytime there was a family wedding, funeral, or other event, Harold had to ride in Raymond's car, which was not so simple as it seemed. You see, they did not talk to each other for many years. Each would eat, sleep, cook, and clean separately from the other. When relatives telephoned, they would pass the phone without speaking. No messages could be passed one to the other. We can imagine them at breakfast, frying eggs in separate pans, never speaking. Or did one wait until the other was finished at the stove? When they came to my father's funeral, Uncle Raymond drove and Uncle Harold sat in the back. At the funeral, they sat in different rows, far apart. I spoke with each away from the other. Uncle Harold told anecdotes of my dad, how as boys he saved up his money and paid his two younger siblings way into the polo grounds for a Major League Baseball game. Uncle Raymond spoke only of sadness, his sadness, my sadness, the terrible sadness of losing someone we loved. Today, Uncle Harold is buried in the same grave as his mother, father, and other unmarried brother Norman. I do not know where Uncle Raymond is buried. Uncle Harold beat him to that grave, and wherever he lies, I am sure it is resentfully. Okay, this one is called Slow Drip. I am in a hospital bed. It is an isolation room. I must be highly contagious. A fluid drip is attached to my arm. It drips slowly, deliberately. I don't know what it is, but it feels good. My brother and his sons arrive. Hiya, Norm, I try to shout, but it comes out a whisper. Hiya, he says. How are you feeling? I tell Norman that he just missed Dad. Dad visited along with Mom just minutes ago. Norman is astonished. Our father and mother have been dead for years. I don't know what the problem is. My father just wanted to say a few things to me. It was good to see him. I thank the drip for that. Norman's adult sons share their greeting. They chat. They leave me a New York Times, which I won't be able to read because the drip affects my vision. And then they are off. It's great they were able to spend an hour. I hope I didn't scare them. I didn't tell them that God the Father and Jesus stopped by yesterday to chat. My relatives would have thought I was insane. But now the priest is here. I sent for him. He doesn't come to these isolation rooms as a normal policy. I tell him I haven't confessed in 40 years, but today I want to confess. I am born again, and my friend Jesus was pretty cool yesterday. So now I want to confess. The priest is a nice young kid, and he talks of God's love. The priests I remember from my youth used to talk of God's vengeance. And yes, his love too, only if we repented. But most of all, of his swift and sure retribution. The kid doesn't speak of God's vengeance, but I forgive him for it, as he forgives me for my great and terrible sin of 40 years ago. He helps me with the act of contrition, which I have forgotten in my years of agnosticism. He puts in a commercial for his parish and bids me farewell. Now I am left alone, and I have hours to kill. They say I've got multi-organ failure. The organs went down like bowling pins. Kidneys first, then liver, pancreas, spleen, and they bowled a strike. So I've got to kill all these hours. The drip will take care of that. It will drift me gently yet powerfully to sleep and treat me to its horrible nightmares of little dolls pursuing me with long knives, climbing walls, and breaking down doors to the rhythm of that sweet but terrifying jingle as they come ever closer to me. Yes, that horrible, terrible jingle. I forget how to pray and can only lay paralyzed. But somehow they never quite reach me as I wake up furiously sweating, cursing the drip and thanking the Lord I am safe for now.
Oh, wow.
Uh, Now I'd like to do a few haikus, or senryus actually. When I dream of you, my dreams are stolen away by the jealous dawn.
Oh, wow.
An omen of light snuggles in the breast of night before dawn wakes her. Autumn rains soak me, smooth, sultry, bracing, sexy. Cool rains, hot passions. November trees mourn, lips ripped from their arms. Sacrifice to time, murderer of all. And this haiku was for the poet William Logan. Giddy streams of thought, jitterbugging down pages in jazzy half sense. And I have two sent by you that are made up of phrases from Sylvia Plath's Morning Song. The phrases were taken out whole. Each phrase is a line. Love set you going. Your bald cry, your nakedness. We stand around blankly. Our voices echo. I'm no more than your mother. Cry and I stumble. This one I wrote in the time where I was a computer consultant for Continental Airlines. I was living in LA at the time, actually Hermosa Beach. She wore a raspberry beret. She wore a raspberry beret. Hermosa Beach, spring 1986. Number 37, 19th Street, side beach view. 4 apartments in an old but sturdy 2-story white block building. She had the place beneath mine. Apartment sale, her roommate moving out. I bought a toaster and fell for her then and there. I gave her some sappy line about not knowing such a beautiful lady lived just downstairs. What a day, she said. I not only sold a toaster, I got a wonderful compliment as well. She was my first stewardess. I wasn't her first writer. I wrote programs, computer programs, for Continental Airlines, and fiction and poetry late at night. She flew for United. Without her roommate, she felt empty, but she hated nightlife. We spent the night lounging on the couch. KCRW, The Cool and the Crazy, Michael Oakes' Archives Alive, and Joe Frank's Miserable Monotone Adventures. So it went for weeks. She didn't cook. I didn't cook. It was eggs and sandwiches all week. It was Miguel's burrito house for Saturday lunch, and riding in her little red Corvette up to El Segundo to the Red Onion for Sunday dinner, always wearing her raspberry beret. 2018. Then back to the beach house for more KCRW. Let me get the second page. I wasn't her first writer, but she was my first and last stewardess. Till the transfer came up. Paris, and more money too. She couldn't say no. Goodbye, LAX. You can come out and see me, she said. You work for Continental. And I'll come to LAX twice a month. She drove away in her little red Corvette, wearing that raspberry beret, and I quit Continental in a week. Hello, NYC and Citibank. Goodbye, KCRW. Joe Frank's monotone followed me east, but the raspberry beret didn't. But years later, if Prince's music is playing, I can almost reach out and touch that beret and the woman wearing it. Okay, these are some newer things. I've been trying to kind of put some philosophy into my poems, so don't take them too seriously. This one was published actually in Open, a journal of arts and letters. Impacts persist. They test the limits of opening doors. Unknown doors open, teaching us. Possible windows reframe the division. Possible windows reframe the dimensions of comprehension as if defined by growing ideas. Unbelievable ideas burn bushes that speak, striking the awe that approaches. Form and context overwhelm. Your words glide in night and glimmer in the day. Your spectral voices reappear as bodies prospecting for tomorrow. I gain a glance into the incalculable mathematics of incongruities. You say you'll help me to construct glaciers that move currents and structures that coalesce events, spreading shards of continents, connecting mountains to the sea. And suddenly, I conquer new fears and explore vistas. Gone is the unseen. Untapped scenarios reemerge and remind that despite all the lost, we have new worlds to discover. Startling diversity. Startling diversity swims in a sea of learning. Life is a teeming affair, possessing the verve to thrive everywhere. With machine-like skill and sharing our knowledge, we can prevail against the odds of failing. Universal trust is a bothersome task and confuses us with questions we are afraid to ask. We stumble into countless hostile desires, like trickery and blame games. Obscurity strikes our fancy. How to dispose of an enemy that might have been your friend is a wish that makes us scream and shout. Imagining shoes or sandals, straps with boots, moccasins dropped from on high on a face. And what of the toys that add to the thrill, the guns and bombs that maim or kill? But are we truly so vindictive, so callous, so vicious? What of the joys that we want to retain? So many choices that it's hard to contain. Art and fashion, theater, song, and laughter, these can heal our vicious wants. Books, science, sports, and games. It's only a theory. It's important to state that we never know what will remain after the smoke and flames have cleared, and nothing will be the same. The missing it might deepen and cause a grand collapse, causing a sudden ruckus and waking us from our intentional sleep. We put this silliness behind us and focus on real things. Why did it take so long to think? This one was published in Verse Virtual. I ventured out on a limb for what I thought I believed in. The limb broke under the weight of my hopes and expectations. The leaves lay scattered on the ground like fallen leaves and broken bits of branch. I picked myself up and picked up the beliefs that survived the fall. And how am I doing on time, Tony?
You got a couple more minutes.
Okay,
Oh, you got 3 or 4 more minutes. You're fine.
sounds good. At 20 years of age, I shuffled the deck, and whatever card came out on top, I would play only if a matching mood's chord struck me. At 35, I shuffled the deck and turned over the cards until I found one that fit my plans for the future. At 65, the deck shuffled itself, and whatever card came out on top played me. And now the deck tries to shuffle me, but I smack it right in the ace of spades, knocking it to pieces so I can play 52 card pickup.
Oh.
And I guess this will be the last one. What will I be doing while all the world is screaming? What will I be doing while all the world is screaming? Dancing with angels on the head of a pin. What could seemingly be a more foolish conception? Once I danced with you on the head of a pin. I awoke and realized that life is worth living. Prior to that, I believed it must only be endured. What I did think before was supplanted by enduring understanding, which was not understanding at all. I chafed under obstacles, challenges, annoyance. I didn't realize that it was my obligation to embrace the incongruities and accept my frailties. Escape is not an option. Pretense is not an option. An honest appraisal of one's faults and limitations is necessary if one is to move forward in life. Despise the taunting and an ever tightening snare of cruelty the world attempts to impose. All of that is only a test. Come aboard the head of a pin and dance with me. If we believe, we can make it happen. And if I should fall off, I'll laugh, accept, and applaud the effort. And thank you all for listening.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Give Ron a nice round of applause.
That was great, Ron.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great job. Great job, both of our features. We're going to dive right into the open mic. So we're going to start with Dale, you're up, and Dee Dee, you're on deck.
Had to do some logistics there.
You're doing great.
Okay. This one was written a couple of years ago, several years ago, when ISIS tried to destroy Palmyra, this ancient city. And it's sort of a reply to that kind of anger and hatred, and I think it's time to read it again. Palmyra. The bright pink painted on the woman's fingernails is awake and makes live the warm brown of the door even more than her smile or the reflection of her sunglasses. She strides into a brick coffee house, and when she comes out, she's 20 minutes older. The deal agreed to there. 20 minutes of life for 20 minutes of table. 20 minutes of life for everyone in the place. Yes, watch her with the vivacity of the sunbeams reflected on the window of the red van parked across the street. The tattoos like smoke adhere to her arm in the heat of this weather. Even door jambs are sensitive to her memory. So when she walks in here, the house of bright colors salutes her. She stays, life whirls, then she leaves, a mere 20 minutes older, close to the age she was in Athens, Rome, Palmyra, when at first, lively and unafraid, she entered into the house of liveliness. She is joyous in leaving as she was in entering, and her happiness spreads itself to anyone who aspires to watch her. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Dee Dee, you're up, and Pearl, you're on deck.
Thank you, Tony. Judy, Ron, that was just wonderful stuff. Really great, really great. This is called Just in Case. Clock ticks. Late night reruns in the next room. Send me up to rest. Renewal. Cool pillow weights my head, eyes which to close. Sleep on the day, just pulling remnants from the cold. Daylight ends, turns ticking clocks to lullabies. Gentle announcement, no need. My heavy lids carve signs I heed. Locked today away in memory. Tomorrow may not come. In open view, keep keys.
Thank you. All right. Pearl, you're up, and Mark, you're on deck.
Unmute myself. Okay. Hi there, everybody. Remember when you snuggled in my arms, tiny hands on my skin, and I the safest place in your universe. Remember when I held you by two hands and you took toddling steps and one day let go. Remember when we laughed at soap bubbles and tickles on your bare feet, the way waves came and went. Remember when I kissed your toes and you hugged my neck so hard I was breathless. Remember when you brought me hibiscus blossoms from outside our house, the sea sparkling behind you. Remember when Lexi, our shepherd dog, slept next to your big boy bed, your fingers in her fur. Remember when you started school, surprised me with tears and holding onto my legs before you let go. Remember when you would fold the newspaper to the crossword puzzle for me when I came home from work. Remember when your best friend Sean was killed on the corner, run over by a school bus. Remember when you said you knew God was all the people together that had ever lived, and you were only 5. Remember when you put on shades and stepped up into your Jeep Wrangler and drove off. Remember when you graduated college, crossed the country to law school, and came back again. Remember when we went to DC, you in a dark navy suit, and after swearing in, walked around the Capitol. Remember when you, with your cool dark shades, walked behind me and pretended I was somebody, and you my Secret Service. Remember when we met for Starbucks coffee and talked about life and philosophy and particle physics. Remember when you got your first flashy car and asked me to help you decide between colors. Remember when you made football understandable to me by comparing the ball to a baby that needed protection. Remember when you fell in love and talked with me as things got serious and seriouser. Remember when you went off to a warm, sweet spot with hibiscus and frangipani and had someone film a private dinner proposal on the beach and later shared pictures. Remember when I picked you both up at the airport and how we all hugged. Remember when we danced at your wedding and 2 years later showed me a sonogram. Remember when you showed me your baby son and named him for my father and let me hold him. Remember when his tiny hands were replicas of your own. Remember when I do. I am sure you remember the latter and have no memory of the beginnings. Remember when you thought you would care about me forever? I do. You don't. It is incomprehensible to count the years to this unfathomable age, remembering, and now not permitted to create any new memories. Remember when, then, now, and forever I shall, whether or not you do.
Ooh, thank you very much, Pearl. Very moving.
Thank you.
Wow. All right. Mark, you're up, and Pat Doyne, you're on deck.
Good evening, everybody. I'm a journalist by trade, and for many years I've written about Native American affairs. Currently, I write for a paper called the Teton Times, which is in North Dakota. And I take special notice of the obituaries in that paper. They're obviously written by the families. And I noticed 2 things about them. One is that a lot of these folks don't live very long. And the second is that there's this enormous feeling and appreciation for their lives that comes through in these really heartfelt, sympathetic pieces about them. So this is a found poem from an obituary of a guy named Alex Lee, who died at the age of 28. And it's called Treasure Chest. Alex was immediately nicknamed Miracle Baby or Treasure Chest because he wasn't supposed to make it to term. Growing up, Alex went over the road with his siblings, Robert and Riley, and with Barbara and Aaron. He got to see a lot of different states and met a lot of different people. Alex was always an active child. He loved being with his brothers, Thomas and Robert. They were always seen laughing and joking with each other. Alex has always been the baby of the family, along with his baby sister, Riley. Alex always took care of Riley and made sure she was safe and happy. He was an amazing big brother. Alex was very artistic and was always seen making jewelry and giving it away as gifts. Alex loved being an uncle. He loved spending time with his nephew Phoenix and niece Barbara, whom he nicknamed Beans. Alex helped raise his nephew, Phoenix. He is survived by his niece, Barbara Beans Walker. His unforgettable smile will be deeply missed. At the time of his death, Alex was a chef at the Four Seasons in Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Pat, you're up, and Marvin, you're on deck.
Hey, this poem is the result of discovering that there's a contest that is going to publish a manuscript. So I titled it, Winner Will Be Published. A real press? Not vanity? No scam? You're scouting for some poetry? Hot damn. You found your manuscript. I have verses waiting for the spotlight. Years of scribble. I'll start filling boxes. Oh, you have guidelines. Editors with champagne tastes. So, which of my house pets will impress? They're such a yappy, scrappy crew. None are pedigreed. Some aren't even housebroken. You don't want barnyard animals. Fields of tame, same beasts that cluck and moo and bleat, repeat. Poetry does not feed at a trough, or plod, or pull a cart. But neither do you want poems caged, enclosed by old school forms, kept in bounds by rhetoric, rhythm, rhyme, and pomp. No, poetry is not the place to make wild beasts do tricks. You want a unicorn, mythical and otherworldly, rare, a poem that flashes by on lovely legs, a poem that may be gentled but never owned, that leads the reader into mystic forests. Have I created anything like that, using only words that mix and match? My poems are mongrels, bred from wandering stock. Some may leap and cartwheel, even sing, but most are merely hopeful. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful poem. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, Marvin, you're up, and Doc, you're on deck.
The Cave of the Libido. In the gypsy caves of Sacramonte, she worked the castanets to the stamping of our feet, our eyes locking on each other's lips. In the Sultan gardens, breathing in the fragrance, bathing in the Spanish sun, in the pool of lions, we splashed our joy onto each other and cooled our ardor on the tiles of the Alhambra. Looking across the courtyard, I saw she was in reach, just outside my dream, if only I could land her. and ole my way through Granada. Stranded in my hotel room by order of one Dr. Lopez, and an ankle sprained hitting the curb with a stupid step, the odor of ointment stifling my room, with no mas senor por un dia o dos, I hobbled out of my prison bed to take in the view, perhaps un poco for what I came, un poco de España. I saw more. She was in a room across the way admiring her skin. Now I was viewing mas, now the Sierra Nevadas, and curving perfectamente of undulating flesh. Oh, blessed ankle, swell and throb and swell. Keep me here forever. Trip through Spain, begin and end right here. But no, suddenly no. I have to meet her. Ankle be damned. Don't slow me down. Dulcinea, I come. But how? Even if I could hobble over and find a room, then what? What do I say? Could I borrow some salt? Or just call me Mr. Peeping Tom? Or I just hurt my foot, got some ice? Could I rest for a while? The couch will do, or the bed. Perhaps she's a tourist too. Perhaps Germany or Bulgaria. How do you say ice or salt or bed? Maybe I'm too short or not muscular enough, or maybe. But who's there? Who's that? Where did he? Some George Clooney guy got her in his arms. And oh, the throbbing, oh, the pain. His joy, my throbbing, his joy, my pain. Lights out in a room, their room. Is that the sound of laughter? And castanets.
Thank you, Marvin. Thank you very much. All right. Doc, you're up, and Valerie, you're on deck.
Thank you. Sacred journey. On a sacred journey of spirit, a journey of realization and discovery through an infinite ocean of stars to a magic mystical garden, a garden of arcane secrets where nothing is what it seems. Dreams tantalize to come true as you discover yourself in the unknown spaces between the subtle, the hidden, the unspoken, of inchoate questions within questions and immense primal mysteries. The effulgent nakedness of you emerges undimmed, untrammeled from the misty scrim of within, in the throes of a silent scream, reverberating, echoing timelessly as you are changed and reborn. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. And thank you for joining us tonight. Actually, for all of you who are new to us, I hope you'll keep coming back. We appreciate you here very, very much. All right.
And before I go, I'm
Sure.
going to be throwing into the chat information about my first book that's now in publication, and my own Zoom event, which is this coming Sunday. It's called Second Sunday Poets.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yes, send it on in. That's great. Okay. All right. So let me see. Val, you're up, and let's see. Mark, you're on deck.
Thanks, Judy and Ron and everybody. Wonderful reading tonight, as usual. Repass. Cloud by cloud, the bagpipes drone. Let me try that again. A little message came up. Repass. Cloud by cloud, the bagpipes drone sails by. Shadows gather along the fading hope of harbor lights. Loss shines as the fixed point leads to the weeping eye, to the vanishing point. What courage it takes to mark 4, 3, 2, one less voice to hear. Cloud by cloud, Memories slide away from shore, drifting, swirling, as an oyster catcher vanishes at the curve of the earth, taking the future, shape by shape, away in the clouds. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was muted. It's only been 4 years doing this. It's hard to believe that's 4 years, but it's 4 years doing this. All right. And I apologize, I kind of got lost. So Mark, you're up, and David, you're on deck.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Ron. Should have been handling my business after work, but required a few minutes downtime to de-stress. Then got caught up in some peppy up-tempo tunes by the Cars and the Rolling Stones, courtesy of an internet playlist on a website I'd rather not mention, since they keep putting me on timeout for having an ad blocker. So I shall avoid giving them free advertising in a poem that I'm certain will reach a handful, if not a dozen persons. And I'm trying to stay mellow fellow and not revert to grouch on the couch, so I reach for the stack of paper representing my personal business, but then jerk my hand back as though I'd gotten a bit too close to the blue and yellow flame on a gas stove burner. No, why ruin the mood I'm in? Better to use this opportunity to write a happy poem, which the world needs more of these days, and lately I haven't been providing. This thought filled me with glee, which naturally led me to the pantry for peanut butter and crackers, then to utensil drawer to select a knife, then to desk for notebook and pen, then to couch where all these items were spread around on a blanket intended to keep crumbs off the couch. A feast fit for a poet, I thought to myself while opening the wrapper. With peanut butter clinging to roof of mouth and cracker package half empty, I notice notebook is still unopened, and pen remains capped. Perhaps the lines in the notebook are not so much filled with glee, but even so, the heart and the stomach of this poet are.
All right. Thank you very, very much. Okay. David, you're up, and Naomi, you're on deck.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, everyone, for a great evening. I was traveling in the Czech Republic, and I spent about a week in Prague. Anybody been to Prague? It's yeah, it's quite an enchanting city. I had a flashback of it, and this poem appeared. What if? The Prague city bus stops, and a light blue dress walks up the steps. I sense a glow of happiness from someone just ending their workday and going home. I can't remember too many other details because regret bans me from any pleasure in recalling how obsessed I was with her bewitched presence. I sat at the back of the bus with the awestruck African tourists. We stared at this stunning woman we wanted to check out. As Eros sends 1,000 arrows into our desirous hearts. Perplexed? Am I going to make a move? I've been bold and brave before. At that nightclub in Sweden, I walked over to the chair, knelt, touched her knee, and pointed to the dance floor. Later, after we got a bottle of wine, Ingela apologized. I don't normally return to my place with a stranger. After toasting the drunken moon, I accepted her apology. Years later, I ran this fantasy story that I got off the bus with the light blue dress woman. I ask, "Do you speak English?" Slightly startled, she smiles, "Yes, I speak English." Awkwardly confess, "This wasn't my stop, but you look so radiant today." I'm invited home for tea and to meet her mother. Or, confused, she walks away from this smitten stalker. I have a long walk back to the hostel on the hill where I will bury my longing and loss until the gravedigger of lament shows up with a shovel. And I go off on a what-if trip again, not wanting that summer bus ride to end, not wanting to feel blue.
Thank you very much. All right. Nice job. All right, Naomi, you're up, and Larry McCoy, you're on deck. Okay. Naomi? Where's Naomi? Did I lose Naomi? I seem to have lost Naomi. Okay. Sometimes we scare them away. Larry McCoy, you're up, and Margaret, you're on deck.
Hello.
Hello, how are you tonight?
I'm good.
Good.
A couple of you may have been subjected to this earlier. A challenge to poets. For some reason, poets put up with me reading prose at poetry gatherings. Maybe it's because I'm such a snappy dresser. Over the years, I've learned that there are many good writers at these gatherings who excel at capturing sensitive moments and feelings, especially while walking on the beach or in the woods. They frequently write lush lines about robins chirping and flowers blooming. Still, at times, I wish the poets tackled more down-to-earth subjects, common things that happen often in everyday life. I mean, poets, how about some poetry that deals with situations such as these? Ron looked to be in great shape, and everyone was shocked when he died of a heart attack while struggling to take off his compression socks. Carol had a wonderful life with a wonderful husband, Carl, or so all their friends thought until she killed herself. In reconstructing what set her off, police revealed Carol never could get over Carl's insistence that she always had to ride on the back of their tandem bike. Harold had a warm smile and very white teeth. He had never flossed a day in his life and was proud of it. He was such a braggart about it that people despised him, even his wife and kids. Not only that, tellers at the Chase Bank would suddenly disappear when they saw him approaching their station. Mildred was in her late 60s when she found love again. And Eugene kept his promise and for her birthday gave her a new vibrator. Who knew that the folks at Betty Crocker now made vibrators? Come on, all you poets who love challenges, let's hear from you. That's it.
Well, I think that sounds like a bunch of prompts right there. All right, Larry, always just a delight. Okay, Margaret, you're up, and Eliza, you're on deck.
Hi, thanks, Tony. Oops, there's two Margarets.
I'm sorry, Margaret Wall.
Okay.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you to Ron and Judy for wonderful features. Unfortunately, today I had one of my pen pals pass away. I've been writing pen pals since I've been 13 years old. So this particular pen pal I've been writing to for 10 years. So this poem's in dedication to her for Rebecca Spalding. Missing pages. Your colored envelope stamped San Antonio TX. Your decorative stationery, always stapled, always organized, always on time. Your small affirmation cards included in the folds of your letter. All the countless stories of work, your shopping adventures, your endless love for your 2 daughters. My mailbox, quiet and empty now. All the things I mourn in the missing pages of your friendship. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you very much. All right, Eliza, you're up, and the other Margaret is on deck.
Okay. This is my most recent poem, not terribly recent. I wrote in January about a emotional meltdown I was having. Spanish oats. Sticking up vertically, I spy the white flag of a note waving from the top of my psychic mailbox. It's chanting in foreign tongues that I can't speak, but understand each letter, branding itself into the layer between my conscious and subconscious mind, erupts, spewing out molten words. The wild seeds you sowed so long ago have grown into Spanish oats. Their pale, forked tongues latch onto socks, shoes, pant cuffs. It's almost impossible to detach them without hearing the scream of their high-pitched voices pierce my inner ears. You're doing it again! You can't escape! My younger, more brazen selves now refuse to lie down quietly. I try to tear off all the sheets from all the beds I visited, lingered, wallowed in, tousled covers falling off the edge of sleep, gathering as comforter on my way to the ground, the soothing memory of your honeyed voice. But no matter how often I wash the sheets in a flood of tears, I wake up at the bottom, achingly raw, unhinged, my innermost self ashamed, yet shamelessly whimpering, naked, sweating, then shivering, teeth and knees knocking, till I can't tell if I'm knocking at your door or my own.
Wow, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Margaret, you're up. And Robert Rubino, Margaret, you're up. And Robert Rubino, you're on deck.
Thank you, Tony. And thank you, Ron and Judy. It was a great reading. And the open mic. Them kids. They had names like Joey, Josephina, Angela, Tina, Tony, and Gino. Names ending in vowels. Mine ended in a vowel too, but the wrong kind. Not an A-O-Y, but an I. My best friend Karen didn't have a vowel at the end of her name. We sat together behind St. Rocco's in deep, dark shadows along the basketball court and watched boys shoot baskets in the moonlight. Girls not allowed, unless the boys weren't there. Friends, enemies, lovers smoked cigarettes, joints, passed around dark brown liquor, winced as fire slinked down our throats. Josephine would steal homemade wine to share, hidden under her shirt. Tony got beaten for being out. Angie's drunken father came looking for his kid, booming her name as he barreled down the street. We'd scatter into bushes, crawl behind cars, and when they were gone, the coast clear, we howled at the moon, begging forgiveness from God for all the sins we were about to commit. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Margaret. All right. Robert Rubino, you're up, and Robert Dean, you're on deck.
Thanks, Tony, and thanks to Judy and Ron for great features. Angel in His Corner, Ode to Angelo Dundee, 1921 to 2012. Part 1, London, 1963. Cassius Clay winks at Elizabeth Taylor sitting ringside, taking his eye off the tough as a bloody Brit steak Henry Cooper, possessed of a wicked left hook, and that wicked left hook deposits the young buck on his American arse, and the crowd crows. And although saved by the bell, Cassius might have seen his imminent shot at Sonny Liston's heavyweight title turning into the fistic equivalent of Eddie Fisher's marriage. But Clay has Angelo in his corner, and in between rounds, his trainer buys time for his glassy-eyed, rubber-legged fighter by finding, lo and behold, a tear in one of his gladiator's gloves. And gosh, who knows how long this delay might take. Well, long enough for Clay's head and legs to revive and his fists to take care of business by busting up old Enery in the next round, thus keeping his destiny's date with Sonny. Part 2, Miami Beach, 1964, and in that title fight against the fearsome favored bear, with a suspicious irritant on Liston's gloves, intentional, who knows, Clay helplessly blinking like a man blind to his own fate. He wants Angelo to stop the fight after the 4th round. Angelo instead cleanses his fighter's eyes, won't let him quit, urges him to dance and survive and rally and transcend. 2 rounds later, catches Clay as champion. 1 day later, he's Muhammad Ali. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. I remember a lot of that. Okay. Robert Dean, you're up, and Sal, you're on deck.
Thanks, Tony, as always, for hosting this, and good features tonight and good open so far. I hate it when my screen always switches to, well, whatever. This poem is coming out later this month in Sheila and the Gig Online, and I don't think Haley Hogan will mind me giving it a little advance publicity. It's titled Noir. Nights linger like bruises. Days pass and do not wave. Mirrors empty upon reflection. Memories forget. Absence makes the heart. Unmade bed on one side, shots in the dark the other. How do we solve for 0? Every bullet a bullseye, red hot gun in red hot hand. Exit wounds before we enter. We meet in ill-lit dives, smoke drift dragons, each of us femme fatale. Monochrome nightmares, late show replays night in, day out. One survives, one haunts. Both get away with murder. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you very much. Okay. And Sal, you're up. And hang on a second. Sal, you're up. And Nina Serrano, you're on deck.
All right. Hey, guys. This one's called Hand Grenades. The hand grenades itself and vectors of finger pointing intersect. The rind of knuckles blinking into collapse. The pit of the palm bitten, its sap and pulp dangling. Within the transmission of fluid is where we tend to reside, unbroken. The lips of groove and tongue tied and sealed. Mid-swoon anomalies for sweet transaction, undulating as surface reflections for breaking. Dumb permeations, we jump double-fisted into the spectrum, omissions of dissected light. Zest and vesicle convulsing in and out of time like the bitterness of bitten seed to always remind you. The pith threading in the curve of the hollowed eye as it's exploding into view. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sal. Pleasure as always. All right. And Nina, where are you? There you are. You're up. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're up.
Thank you to everyone who's read so far. Greetings from California. This is great-great-grandmother's grandmother's chicken soup. First, you killed the chicken in the backyard with your bare hands. Sitting on a wooden vegetable crate, you wring its neck.
Then you pluck the feathers one by one, throw out the entrails, bring the chicken into the kitchen and toss it into a big soup pot. Add salt. Then scrub some unpeeled potatoes and carrots, cut them into chunks. At the right moment, dump them into the soup. If the onion made your eyes tear, let them flow. Add some loud moans and laments. Finally, chop some parsley and dill to sprinkle on top. When the delicious soup is ready, grow silent and ladle into bowls and quietly serve.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was great. And thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. B. Blumberg. Let's see. So Nina, that was B. Blumberg. You're up. Did I miss you? Did I get you? Are you here? B. Blumberg. All right. I have on my list that the only person who hasn't read so far is Judy. If I'm missing that, if I've missed you, I apologize. It was a big list today. Just throw yourself in the chat and I will add you. But for right now, we're going to go to J.R. Judy Turk.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Ron. And thank you, Tony. This is wonderful. Okay, so I just did a random open. I don't know, shoes keep coming up on my feed, so.
Shocking.
Shocking, I know. Ode to Scary Pairs. The shoes in my closet are dangerous. If I put on a pair, they'll walk me down the steps, out the door, and to the mall. Where I'll surely buy another pair, and my closet will explode. The shoes in my closet are dangerous. Spiked heels sneer when left alone too long. Mules snore a decibel too loud. Peekaboo pumps sneak a peek at lounging slingbacks and scowl. Clogs hate it when I play favorites, when I flip-flop, cater to rain, sleet, snow, when I put off taking them to Dominic, their god of heels and taps, who buffs them to a butter-soft patina. Sneakers crave their daily exercise, bitch when I cannot comply. Stilettos trapeze from their mesh hammocks, fall to the floor, moan to be picked up, coddled, crooned to before they're placed beside their mate. I'm grateful. They have no access to poison, silver bullets, switchblades. Though I adore them, the shoes in my closet are dangerous. And oh, how they hate it when I say I love to go barefoot.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
All right, there being nobody else, I'll do a quick one.
Yay.
The Brooklyn Bridge. They built the Brooklyn Bridge without power tools, without computer CAD files, without laser measurements, without really knowing how steel works. They built the Brooklyn Bridge without understanding the bends, without harnesses, without OSHA requirements, and 20 died. It still stands today, a testament to human ingenuity, human indifference, human determination, human courage. Hey, I want to thank everybody. Let's open up your mics and give our two features a nice, well-deserved round of applause.
Ron and Judy, great.
Yeah,
reading.
great.
Thank you.
Great.
Beautiful evening.
What a fun evening.
Applause.
It really
So
was.
glad I stopped by.
It was a great evening, and it was a nice big
Very
crowd
nice.
here. We had over 40 come in.
Thank you,
at some point.
everyone. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you,
And
everyone.
if you'd like to be on our email list, just throw it in the chat. And with that, I wish you all peace and everybody be safe. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Tony.
Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Night, everybody.
Bye.